Hi guys, so today we are going to be reading a little bit deeper into the short story we read yesterday. Um, and I think a lot of you guys were confused about the ending, um, and initially until we talked about it, that this book was not meant to be read literally. It was meant to show a lot about society at this time because we said that it was written by Shirley Jackson in the 1960s, who was often ridiculed for speaking out as a woman, especially writing stories that were as violent as this. And we also talked about how she wrote The Haunting of Hill House, which many of you guys may have not read, but a lot of us had seen it on Netflix. So today, guys, I want you to read through it again before we get a whole lot into the deeper meaning of this, which we did touch on yesterday, but we'll talk more about it after. I want you guys to have a close reading on it, and we're going to talk about it after you guys get finished. Um, we're going to do today, guys, what is called a double entry diary, and a double entry diary is similar to annotating. Um, but instead of just taking notes as we read, you're actually going to have detailed responses. So you're going to pick a quote from the short story, and you are going to explain why you picked that quote and why it is significant to the story. So I'm going to show you guys an example of a double entry diary. Give me just a minute. All right. So here, guys, you see you have two columns. And on the left side, you're going to do the direct quote. So when you guys do yours on the lottery, I want you to do it on Microsoft Word. It'll be much easier, much neater. And instead of writing down the quote, you can simply copy and paste it. That's perfectly fine. But if you look here, um, I cite my sources in MLA. So here we're just using one source. We're just using the lottery. So you'll just put Shirley Jackson, the lottery. You don't have to put a page number because it's just on the web page. Just do Shirley Jackson Lottery. Don't even worry about citing the New Yorker because if we were reading this out of a textbook, it'd be the same. So just do Shirley Jackson the Lottery. Notice how the punctuation is always outside. Um, and your parentheses is going to be on both sides. And then, of course, like I said, your punctuation is going to be on the outside. You're going to have quotation marks on each side of your quote. So, here we were talking about how young adult literature was often seen as being like not something that was appropriate for older readers, and how it was often considered once you got to be a little bit older to be something that didn't need to be read. And we see it says one misconception is that young adult literature is for struggling, reluctant readers only, rather than sophisticated, already motivated readers. So I said this passage stood out to me. While I knew it was somewhat frowned upon to read young adult novels in class, I wasn't aware of how passionate some people were against them. So I had my own opinion, and this quote stuck out to me because while the writer of this particular quote or believed that, young adult literature was a good thing, I was not aware that there was a big cult following against it. So that's why I chose this quote, and I went on to explain it a little bit, as you can see. And that is what I want it to look like. Now, if you are not sure how to if you're not sure how to make that on Word, let me just show you really quick. You're just going to launch Word. Just a minute to share my screen. You're going to go to Word. go up here to the top left. It should be the third option down. Go to insert, go to table. So like you've seen, we want two different boxes. Go 8 down. So I want you guys to find 8 total. We're going to do the first one together, so you guys understand what I'm wanting you to do. So that is how you initially start your chart. Now I'm going to launch the lottery, and let's look at this together. Start up from the very beginning. Okay. The very first lines of the story, I find them very important. So we'll start off with that. It says the morning of June 27th was a clear and sunny with the fresh warmth of a full summer day. The flowers were blossoming profusely, and the grass was richly green. The people of the village began to gather in the square, between the post office and the bank, around 10 o'clock. In some towns, there were so many people that the lottery took 2 days and had to be started on June 26th. But in this village, where there were only about 300 people, the whole lottery only took about 2 hours. So it could begin at 10 o'clock in the morning and still be through in enough time to allow the villagers to get home for dinner. So this whole paragraph, first lines of the story, I'm going to copy and paste this over. Let's look at this together. Share screen. I'm going to paste it on my left side. All right, and I need to put my quotes. And parentheses, Shirley Jackson, comma, and it's a short story, so I'll need to italicize the lottery. All right, let's talk about why this is important. What do these first lines do for the entirety of the play? So the morning of June 27th was clear and sunny, with the fresh warmth of a full summer day. The flowers were blossoming profusely, and the grass was richly green. So when we think of summertime, what kind of emotions, what connotation does summertime bring? It brings happiness, it brings freshness. So by describing a warm, beautiful summer day, the author sets a scene for what readers may think will be a happy story. We'll say a story with a happy ending. Now, the people of the village began to gather in the square between the post office and the bank around 10 o'clock. In some towns, there were so many people that the lottery took 2 days and had to be in the village on June 26th. But in this village, where there were only about 300 people, the whole lottery took only 2 hours. So the way that they describe the village is seems very normal. So the author describes the village being a very average American town. Okay. So this particular description of the town it does that give us even a hint of what happens? So the title within itself, let's talk about that as well. When we think of a lottery, what do we think of? We think of winning. We think of money. We think of wealth. Um, but after Tessie Hutchinson, which is the main character, after what happens to her, we know she's stoned because she is the chosen one. She is the one that wins the lottery. Um, it is irony. So it's ironic. The title itself, the lottery is associated with wealth and fortune. However, um, it exhibits irony. The title itself, the lottery, is associated with wealth and fortune. However, it exhibits irony because the winner is killed. So you need to explain. I chose this selection. So I chose this paragraph because it shows the how fast the story changes. It shows it begins with beautiful imagery. It ends in brutal murder. So we'll say with beautiful imagery, and it gives us a feeling of home. So it begins with beautiful imagery and a feeling of familiarity, but it ends in a brutal murder. So that is what I want you guys to do. I expect you guys to, anything that we went over as far as figurative language or literary terms, use that when you read through this. What are you finding that is, why would the author use figurative language in a certain spot? What are certain things representing? Remember, we talked about how Mr. Graves, he was the postmaster delivering death to the village, the black box, symbol of death. Think of symbolism. Think of all of these things and write it down. And you can include your thoughts and emotions here as well. Just make sure that you're using proper grammar. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to come to me. And after you guys are finished, which I do want these finished by tomorrow, we will go over them as a class and we'll talk about our own reactions and our own opinions.